Hello, it's me again. I will not sing, but basically I can do it, or I think I can do it. No, I cannot do it. It's just okay. So then this is the last block of the presentations. We have very interesting presentations, like I told you, and the first one, it's a keynote about using a Raspberry Pi to create an authentication server. This keynote, it's delivered by Liechti, who is CTO at Cisco Système de Communication, and he has a bachelor in electronics and a master in communication systems. Andre?
Thank you. And don't forget the gifts. I talk about it, you talk about it. Okay. So, hello. So I will talk about strong authentication. Who knows about strong authentication? Okay, so one or two, some people, okay. So first we will see why regular passwords are never strong enough. So I have some tools to show you why we definitely can't trust anymore a single password. We will talk also a bit the different solution for more security. I will present you Multi OTP, an open source solution we did to make strong authentication. How to set up an authentication device for less than $100. In fact, it's less than $80. And I will do also a live demo with Multi OTP installed on a Raspberry Pi, which makes a very, very low-cost authentication server. And at the end, you have some questions. And don't be shy, they will be rewarded. I have a Swiss chocolate here for some people who ask questions. And we have also some YubiKeys that we have received from Yubico. So first, why regular passwords are never strong enough on the internet, but elsewhere too. Yeah, the people, you receive a computer and you say, okay, I put my own password on my computer, and after you go in a company and you say, I put the same password so it's easier to remember. And after, okay, you have an email or Gmail or whatever, say, okay, I put the same one, the same for Facebook, Twitter, all the bunch of applications you have on your smartphones. And you have a lot of websites where you have to register also. And you say, OK, I also put the same one. So you put your, very intelligent, so you put your email from Google and the password from Google on some strange websites. And OK, it could be the Santa Claus on this website, but also some hackers. And everybody knows that hackers have hood when they are working. OK, so that's why a single password is not strong enough. And this is on the internet part. But when you are at home or in your office, you have also some nice hardware tools. So I bought all of them just to check. So you have the keylogger. You just put inside between the computer and the keyboard, and everything is stored in this keyboard, in this device. So you ask the people to clean the desk, to put that desk quickly 1 week, and the week after you have everything that your boss typed on the machine. You have also some camera keys. For example, this is a camera, but you have a little key, but you have a little camera in it. So you put that somewhere, and you can retrieve the password of the people. And there are some nicer hardware tools. You have the same keylogger, but now it's a Wi-Fi. So you don't need to go back again to retrieve the device. You just go with a little access point near the office, and you can retrieve the password, for example. So this is not so good also. And you have also, you know, probably these USB sticks. It's like a memory, but it's not a memory, in fact. And you can inject what you want, like strange viruses or just keyloggers, and so on. So you can make fake access point or whatever. So this is all the danger you will have when you have only one password. If the people sniff the password, they can use that to do a lot of things. So what about a different solution for more security? So you use them already. It's called two-factor authentication. It's when you have something and the knowledge of something. So a daily usage for that is the ATM machine, because you have a card and you have a personal PIN. And when you tap the personal PIN, the card will do something inside, and it will check if the authentication is correct or not. So if somebody stole your card and don't have the PIN, it's still protected, okay? But so this is the principle. And the first time we used that, probably years ago, when you were connecting to your banks, you receive just a list of passwords, and you have to scratch the passwords all the time. So this is the first one-time password solution. You just receive papers, and okay, it works like this. When you are connected, you put your username, your secret PIN or password, and after you just put the next password on the list. And you just hope that nobody copies the list. But at least they have to be synchronized, okay? So this is how it works. It's quite easy, but not more so often used. Perhaps for recovery sometimes. You can print a few scratch passwords somewhere, and if your tokens and everything is broken, you can still use the paper. The historical market leader for the tokens, so the real tokens, electronic tokens, used a time-based automatic generator with a secret algorithm. So we never know the secret of the algorithm because it was a secret. And they have in 2003 70% of the market, and they sell more than 25 million of devices. And at this time, a guy decided to try to make more or less the same algorithm, but in an open source. So it was called Mobile OTP, and it was very easy. We take the hash, an MD5 of a PIN code, plus a time-based algorithm. So for example, every 10 seconds, we divide the time by 10 seconds. And each time we aggregate the PIN code and the time sequence, plus a seed, and this make a new password every 10 seconds, okay? So this one is open source, more than 40 different implementations. You had that on Java J2ME for mobile phones, because in 2003, there is no smartphones. So it was working on old Nokia or whatever, but now it's still working on smartphone, iPhone, Android, etc. But the only problem with that, it's not standardized. So after a while, in 2005, they make an organization called OATH, which is Initiative for Open Authentication, and Open Authentication, sorry. And they decide to normalize a process. At the beginning, we said, okay, we will take as the key for the calculation a counter. So it's like you have a counter, you have your secret seed, you have a mechanism that calculates hashes, HMAC hashes, and you will receive a code which will change all the time. So this is how it works. You have your counter in your pocket, and you press once. Okay, you have 382, and the system calculates the hash, and you see you have 754812, which is your code. On the server side calculates a few codes, because perhaps you have a boy at home and he just plays with your token a lot of time, and you are a little bit out of the scope. So you have to calculate a lot of tokens from the last valid one till we say, I don't know, 5 or 50, it depends, more 50, because when you have the token in the pocket, it can push sometimes on the button. Here, 5 is enough for the example. And the server check on this side which one is okay. So I say, okay, this one is good. So all others are not valid anymore. And the next one, which will be valid, are these. Okay? So it's quite easy. But it's not very useful, because when you want to use one token to connect on several websites or at several places, you can be unsynchronized, desynchronized. So that's why they said, okay, we will also do something with a time-based system. So for the time-based system, we decide to do exactly the same as for the event-based system. We just divide the time. We take the time, we make Unix time, because yeah, we are developers, so we make Unix time. We divide by 30, and this is the counter that we use. So every 30 seconds, a new code is generated. But the algorithm is exactly the same, which is nice when you make a library, because you can just call the same code to encrypt that. And say, okay, you are at this time t, you have this code which is generated, and on the server side, you don't have a boy that can push the button, but perhaps the time is not well synchronized, because your token can derivate from a few seconds. So on the server, you calculate a little bit before and a little bit after, and you have a lot of codes, and you check which code is valid, which is this one, and you say, okay, all the other codes are not valid anymore, and the next one will be later in the time, okay? With this method, you can also synchronize your token, because if you see that the token is unsynchronized from 2 minutes, you say, okay, the next time I add 2 minutes to the algorithm before doing the check again. Some HOTP and THTP tokens that exist, so you have different sizes, like this one is one, you have another one like this. You can have a Google Authenticator, which is an application which is doing TOTP stuff. I don't know if everybody knows that, but when you are using Google Authenticator with your Gmail account, it's a TOTP generator. You have also some credit cards, which have a display inside, or you have these little things that is called a YubiKey, made by Yubico, which is like a keyboard, but it emulates a keyboard. So you put that in your computer, you press once, and it will type stuff for you. So it will type the code. We can see that here. It typed the code, but the guy from Yubico tried at the beginning and said, okay, it works only in Sweden because the scan codes are not the same for all the countries. So they just check all the keyboards, and they found that 16 keys were at the same place for all keyboards. So they used these 16 keys to make what they called ModX, which is a hexadecimal with 16 keys on your keyboard. That's why you have strange strings like C, B, G, U, etc. And what is it more exactly? At the beginning, you have 12 characters, which is the serial ID of your YubiKey. On the server, with these 12 identification characters, you can know which symmetric secret key you have, and you can decode the rest of the strings. And after, in these strings, you can see there is a counter and a unique passcode. So you can fix a unique password to know who is really carrying this device, and you have a counter which will count +1 each time you press on it. And if the passcode is good, if the counter is greater than before, you say, okay, the YubiKey OTP is validated. Otherwise, you refuse them, so you avoid also that people can sniff your key, because when it's used, it's too late. It's already passed. So this is more in detail what you have in the 32 characters, but yeah, I think it's a little bit boring now to check what is exactly inside. You have also SMS token. I don't know if you use them already. So you authenticate on an authentication server. You receive an SMS after you use the username, the password, and the SMS when you go on your firewall or on your website. And the firewall or the website is doing authentication, and if it's okay, you have an access which is granted. Now I will talk about the library, multi-OTP. We do in PHP, and we do that in open source. So why did we develop the multi-OTP package? It's just because no free and easy-to-use solution for small company were existing, and a lot of existing commercial products need Windows Server, but 2008, not with R2, with the patch blah on blah, so it was quite difficult to install that. And also, existing products needs a lot of resources, even technically resources, but also a lot of money, because normally it's very expensive. So why open source? So first, we did that open source, so we receive a lot of feedbacks from and proposals from the users. So you make something, and after you receive a lot of mails, you are sure that this protocol is okay, and so. Security issues are analyzed by other developers. So the people say, why did you do that? And are you sure that this value is like this, and so. And finally, user can be sure that there is no Trojan and other NSA-friendly tools in your code. The multi-OTP concept, we do an open source PHP class. So some people here say, why did you do that in PHP? Don't do that in C or whatever, Java or whatever. We did that, and in one embedded file. So you have only one file to require, and you have the whole library. Of course, when we develop that, we have several files, and after we put everything together. Why? So we are OS independent, and it works also on any web server, including when you are in a sharing hosting space, because there you cannot install what you want, so you just put your PHP library, you make a request, and that's it. You will see in 4 lines you can have you can add strong authentication in your website, if you are doing PHP at least. The data are stored in flat files, or in a MySQL database. Why we store that in flat files? Of course, when you are using that on your web servers, you don't store that in flat files. But as we want to do a little device, like on a Raspberry Pi, if you try to make a database on the Raspberry Pi, it will take a lot of power, and the Raspberry Pi can be, the power can be broken a lot of times. So if you put SQLite or whatever, and you just take off the power, perhaps your whole database will be corrupted. So when we do a flat files structures, every user, every token is in one file. And the index is quite easy. You open the file with the name of the user. If the user is not there, there is no user. And if it's there, you have directly the data. So we implement both of them. And all methods are also implemented in command line tool. So you have a library, and you have also a command line tool that is compatible with the centralized open source software, which is called FreeRadius. So with this device, you have a Radius authentication server, which costs more or less nothing. The system administrator can also create script to handle users or whatever. So if they are a bit skilled, they can install that on whatever for a server, and you can do what you want. We have supported the common standards, the Mobile OTP, just because we started with this. It's not really a standard, but we like it, so we put it at the beginning. And after we use HOTP, TOTP, and Ubico OTP at last. SMS tokens, we are working with Clickhotel, for example. And you can have also a scratch passwords list, which is used when you have some trouble with all your electronic device. At least paper are still working. We have now a simple web GUI since 2014 for all common tasks, and I will show you that how it works. And HOTP and THTP software tokens can simply be configured by flashing a QR code. You will see that. So for example, if you have 20 people in your company, you just print 20 papers. You put the papers, recommended papers to the people, and they just have to flash the code, and that's it. So it's very easy to implement, and it costs nothing. And the hardware token definition files can be imported. So if you want still use hardware tokens like Ubico or some others, we have implemented some proprietary tokens because customers ask us to implement that. But also now standard PSKC files, because now more or less all tokens are standardized, and you receive a file which is PSKC with encrypted password, blah, 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 and you just have to import this file, and all the tokens are recognized by your device. And finally, the Ubico file, I will show you that later. You create your own secret on your little key there, and you can encrypt it, and you just take the log file, put in your Raspberry Pi, and your token is recognized. In fact, I hope so during the demo. This is the history of the package. In 2009, we do the proof of concept with this not so standard Mobile OTP protocol. 2010, we do a class with basic TOTP, HOTP. And in 2011, we make some workshop at an application security forum. We do wider development in 2012. 2013, we add new functionalities, because that's funny, when you are open source, a lot of people have to have a lot of ideas. Not always good ideas, but they still have ideas, so you can check if it's good or not. And we add SMS tokens, scratch password list, QR code, and URL provisioning. That was pretty cool. And client-server implementation with local cache, because some people want to do some stuff with their laptops and strong authentication, so we have to think about how to do that, because normally you still have to be centralized, so we put some cache and stuff issues. And we put the MySQL backend support, because at the beginning we decided just to do flat files, but it was not so sexy for bigger systems, so we do also MySQL backend support. And in 2014, we asked to be certified by OATH, and we added also the support for Ubico OTP. Active Directory and LDAP synchronization. So if you are in your company, if you have everybody in your Active Directory, you just say all people in this tree or in these groups must have a token, and the system synchronizes automatically. I create software tokens, for example, just the PDF papers, and you can distribute that to all your people. So when you have 200 people, it takes 5 minutes to create tokens for everybody, because you can just synchronize your whole Active Directory. And we have done the first Raspberry implementation in 2014. It was not so easy because you don't have a lot of power in your Raspberry Pi, so you have to optimize a lot of stuff. But after a while, it works better. And in 2015, we did more enhancement. We do some special proxy for the Raspberry Pi, so it worked even faster, and a lot of other options and enhancements. Here is how you can do to have strong authentication in your web server in 4 lines. So you require the class, you create a new object, you set the user that you want to check, and you call check token, and you receive a result, which is a 0 if it's okay, and you have various error codes if the token was replied or if the user is locked or whatever. Okay? So in 4 lines, of course, you still have to generate the token, etc. But to check the user in 4 lines, you're okay. The multi package can be also installed on Windows. So it's not, I prefer to install that on virtual machines, on Linux or whatever. But if you have only a Windows machine and you want to try that, you can also do that. We have found implementation of FreeRadius under Windows. So you just go on the website, multiotp.net, you download the last version, you unpack everything in C multiotp, you read the README file, if you have time, and you install the FreeRadius service. We did a little script, and you just install that, and that's it. And you have a web GUI, a simple one, and you can do what you want with that. How to create a user? This is the old method, and after the new method. So the old method, if you want to do that by hand, or you want to do some scripts, you just call multiotp, you say fast create, and you put the name of your user. Fast create will do automatically a TOTP with 30 seconds, so it's a standard like Google do the TOTP. And you receive an information, okay, the user is created. After, you can save the QR code to send to the guy, multiotp minus QR code, blah, blah, blah. And you receive the information, QR code successfully created, and you send the QR code to the user using a secure channel. This is the old method, because the new method is much simpler. Just use the web interface to create the user and print a nice HTML provisioning page like this. So this is the website. We will see just later during the demo. So you say add a new user, you put the name, email, SMS, whatever, some stuff, a prefix. So the prefix is the password. Normally you need to put the prefix, because if you don't put the prefix and somebody stole your token, they can directly log in your system. So you always have to use a prefix. Why is it optional? It's because on some firewall, for example, you have 2 systems for authentication. You have an internal system for authentication, which have already a username and password, and after you have the second factor authentication, which is your token. So you will not put again another PIN or another password on the token. So you do that, and after you receive a big pages, I just show you the QR code, and you just have to take a picture of the QR code, and your token is set in your phones. So don't do that directly. This one is not working probably, but during the demo you will have to do it, because I need a code. So the typical usage is, okay, you have I don't know, a firewall in your company, and you want that people from outside can reach the company. So you distribute different paper or different tokens. They have a phone or the tokens, and you can authenticate on your Raspberry Pi, and access is granted or not if the people are okay. It's much safer, because if you go and you just have a username and a password, and the people have, as we said before, one of these tools there, when you go away, the people can still come back to your company. When you have a one-time password system, they cannot use the password again. So how to set up an authentication device for less than $100? So it goes very fast. First, we use the Raspberry Pi, because it's very cheap. It's less than $40. There is no OS license. You can use Debian Linux or others. It's widely distributed, and you have a community support for that. It's a micro USB powered, so you can see like this one is directly powered by the firewall, so you don't need to put an extra power. And the CPU is 700 megahertz, which is not so much, but it's quite enough for what we do. And the RAM is only 512 megabytes, but it works. You can trust me. We will see that later. And we have to add SD card because we don't have storage. So 4 gigabytes is enough. And how to make this strong authentication server? So we take the Raspberry Pi, the SD card with the OS on it. We add multi-OTP on it. You put a real-time clock, so it's $10 or $15, because as it's time-based, you don't have real-time clock in your Raspberry Pi. So the first time you try, you always start the 1/1/1970, which is not quite fun for your tokens. And OK, you buy a power supply, or you just take the cable and put in your firewall. And finally, you take a nice case, so it's better. And at the end, for $80, you have your whole authentication server, which works without any problem for more than 100 people. Because the load is very low, because people only authenticate 1 or twice a day. So when you have 200 people, that's enough. Or even if they do that 20 times a day, it's still not very loaded. OK, now we'll do a live demo with multi-OTP installed on a Raspberry Pi here. So I will have to switch that. So this is the scary part, because doing live demo is always the scary part. First, I will show you my screen. OK, we close that. And let's go. So here I'm on the, OK, I think the, oh, nothing. Here we are on the first page. In fact, there is only one page. We are on the login option of the first page. So you can see the version. Sorry for the date, because it's the date in Switzerland. We have 1 hour less. You have the Raspberry Pi serial number. So if you have a lot of Raspberry Pi, you know where you have installed that. And you have to log in. So the default login and password is 1234. So we don't invent the wheel. And you arrive directly where you can create a user. So let's say we create the user DevTalks. Email address, SMS, we don't care, because we won't use this function yet. And we'll put the prefix pin called prefix, which is not so intelligent, but it's easier for the demo. And we say, OK, we'll do a software token. And the token type, just use TOTP, which is better, because you can use it everywhere, and it's synchronized by the time. You say, add this user, and that's it. So you create your first user, which is here. It's a bit ugly, but it works. And here you can print the stuff, and you see that, OK, you have the information, personal and confidential, DevTalks. It explains to authenticate yourself on your company, blah, blah, blah. You have your username, your prefix code. It said that it's better that you install a QR code reader for your smartphone. After, you can install Google Authenticator or what else. So you have a QR code for installing that if you haven't already Google Authenticator. And at the end, you have the token provisioning. So now you can take a picture, a real picture with if you have a Google Authenticator. So I have a phone for that. And you should have, and everybody should have the same code, because normally you are synchronized. So OK. It makes a beep. OK. So now I have a code. So somebody have also a code? OK. I stay a few seconds on this. And if you don't have sorry? Bigger? Closer? Bigger? No, not this one. This one. Is OK? OK. So if you don't have a Google Authenticator and you need something else, you can also type the secret seed, but it's a little bit complicated. So for that, QR code is better. Otherwise, you have to type all this stupid stuff. Okay, and now that's it. And we will try to log on our firewall. So here I'm on the firewall. I already did the link with the radius server. So you want to see how we set up a radius server on the firewall, or you don't care? Yeah? Okay, so we show that very quickly. It's very easy. I just take a stock firewall, and after you have to just to say, okay, I want to enable radius authentication. I just have to remember there, okay? And here in systems, we say, okay, not in system, in fact, it's in object. Okay, we define the authentication server. So I say I have a radius called multi-OTP. I did that. I just put the name, the IP address, the authentication port, and the key, which is my first pass by default in the Raspberry Pi implementation. After you can change it also. So here you just define the radius server. And after you have to define an authentication method. So I create an authentication method called multi-OTP. And I say that it used the group multi-OTP, which is the radius server I just set up, and also the local users. So your administrator from the firewall are still working. Otherwise, you are just cut. Okay. And finally, in order to make the demo, I said that when I use the web page to do a login to make, for example, SSL VPN, instead of using the default authentication method, I use the multi-OTP method. And that's it. So now I do a logout. And now we'll try DevTalks. So I type DevTalks here. Sorry. DevTalks here. So the password, I put prefix, like we did. And now I need your number. So who has taken a picture? So just give me the numbers. You have also 624644. You have that? Okay. So 624644. And we do login. And we hope it works. It didn't. Okay. So I did something false. DevTalks. Prefix. 930625. Okay, so I'm in. And so I'm in this is the page after from the firewall, so we don't care about that. So we are in. If I try again to go with the same password, it will not go, of course. And now I will show you also, because I still have some more minutes, how we can do that with the YubiKeys. Because with YubiKey it's more simpler. Say you have a big companies and you want to set up 50 keys. It's annoying to take the serial number of the keys and know, okay, this key is to this guy, etc. So what we did, you just create the keys, you create the users, which has at the beginning a TOTP with QR code. You just throw away your QR code. You send all the YubiKeys. You don't care where is where. And if the YubiKeys is not linked with the users, any user can use it the first time. So when the user logged at home, they just put the username, their passwords, for example, the Active Directory password, if you do the synchronization, and they put the YubiKey, they click once, and the YubiKey is connected directly to the user because it was never used before, and that's it. So you don't need to, for administrative task, it's very easy. So I will show you that. First, we create the YubiKey. Oops. So you use, it's very simple because the YubiKey tools, YubiKey personalization tools, is free on the internet. You take the quick mode, so you don't have to do anything. You put your key there, and you say, okay, I will use configuration. You have two configurations. If you press one time, it's configuration 1. If you press a long time, it's configuration 2. So you can put 2 keys. You say, okay, I put 1 keys. You really don't care of what is the number you put, and you write the configuration. And that's it. Your key is already set up, and you have a file, which is a log file, and you just save the file, and that's it. So now, if I have a look at this file, you can see that the file has the date, and some information, which is the seed of the key, etc. Okay? You go back to the, so we go back to the Mobile OTP web administration. We say import new hardware tokens. I just take my file. I say import. You wait 1 or 2 seconds. Okay, and here you see I have one new token here, a hardware token. Okay? I show you again how is the current configuration things for DevTalks here. So you see it's written DevTalks, prefix, blah, blah, blah. I close that. I go on my firewall again. I type DevTalks. I put my prefix. Now in the password, I just click once on the key. It takes a bit longer. It type a lot of things. I'm in. And now if I go here and I print again the paper, you see that has changed, and it's written DevTalks, my prefix, and I just have the serial number of my token, and that's it. So it has linked automatically. Okay. So this was for the demo, which was working not so bad. Yes. And we go back. I think we have more or less finished with the presentation, but we go to the questions, because I hope that you have some questions. Here we go. And await the questions. So the reward are here. So somebody have questions? Yes? Perhaps we just need...
There's
sorry,
one there.
One there after. OK, we start there.
Hello, can you hear me? OK. What do you think are safer, one-time passwords or biometric scans?
Or?
Biometric scans.
I think biometric scans, you can fake the scans all the time. We see that earlier during the presentation. It depends what kind of biometric things. But for example, the fingerprints or some stuff like that are not very secure right now. But a prefix code and a hardware token, you cannot fake that. So for the moment, I think I prefer tokens like that.
OK, and
OK, so you have one. Cool.
Another quick question. How many concurrent users did you say the Raspberry Pi handles?
So at least you can do that with 200 people, because people are not authenticating a lot of time during the day. So, and the file is pretty small, so it's less than 1K. So you have enough places to put, I don't know, 500 people. But if you want to do a more something more for your company, you can also run a virtual machines and just install the whole stuff under Linux. Okay? But 200 people, I think it will be okay. You're welcome. Another question?
It's somewhat related to...
Yeah, I just have no server from the LDAP. but everything is in the README file.
It's
yes?
somewhat related to the previous question. How does this software handle denial of service attempts? So if you try, let's say, 300 or 400 users at a time.
Yeah, but at the same time, you mean? OK, this is not implemented in the Raspberry Pi. But it was a good question, so you have a blue one.
At least have you tried putting a proxy in front of it and making a cluster?
Sorry?
Using a cluster of raspberries to handle it.
Why we use the Raspberry Pi?
If you try to put, let's say, an Nginx in front of it and use 3 raspberries to authenticate more users at the same time.
Sorry? A plastic case? Cluster, yeah. In fact, it's a good question, because the next release, we will do active cluster. So yes, we will be able to do that. But even, so it was a good question, but you already have the chocolate. So.
We have there a question?
Sorry, yes?
There?
Do you happen to know if the new Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi 2, does support more than, I don't know, 300 users or something?
In fact, it's only related to the space you have.
Okay,
I said
so
200 is just, no, but you can put 1,000. But in fact, if you have 200 people, probably you have better to put 1 or 2 virtual machines, because just to rely on it, the Raspberry Pi, the hardware of the Raspberry Pi, it's perhaps not the best things to be safe, okay? So if you want to avoid failure, probably go to virtual machines, or just wait the next release where we will put active failover, and this way you can be safer and have perhaps for 200 or 300 people.
And another one, Have you tried working with another device like XMOS or Arduino?
Yeah, I use, for example, a BeagleBone Black, which is a little bit more powerful, and the memory is already inside. So, and you have chocolate. So, whew. Another question?
Where is there?
Yeah. Yes. Where were you?
Sorry, I thought somebody else was speaking.
No problem.
So, hello. Speaking of clusters and stuff like that, have you ever thought about using something like Apache Mesos? I don't know if you're familiar with the project, which is somehow like a data center management type thing. It allows you to like add 10 Raspberry Pis and treat them as a cluster, but they're all like treated as one big unit, and you can allocate resources dynamically. So like you can have 1.5 Raspberry Pis allocated to 350 users.
I never checked that, but you send me an email or something like that, and we can talk about that. It could be interesting, okay? So you have also chocolate.
Sure.
You. Another question?
Hi.
Yeah.
Can I use your frameworks? Can you hear me now?
Sorry?
Can you hear me now? It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to use this framework so I can, for example, I have a smartphone with an application, and when I'm reaching near my Raspberry, my home, to, I don't know, Raspberry turn on my lights.
Yeah.
And to authenticate with this. Can
sure,
I use that?
You can do that.
Oh.
And the license, I didn't talk about the license. Okay, it's open source, but it's LGPL, so you can include that even in commercial products. You only have to give back the source code if you change the library, but the rest of your code can be proprietary. That's not a problem. It's LGPL, yeah.
Let's take one more question.
Oh, sorry. Last question? Yeah.
Yeah.
So normally these authentication servers are used in multi-tier architecture or something like that. Why you recommended using Raspberry Pi? I mean, these people who is making multi-tier architecture, they will have enough money to buy a big server or something like that to have more efficiency or something like that.
Yes, sure. It's for very small companies. If you want to do something, take a Raspberry because it's enough for 5 or 10 people. If you go bigger, okay, buy something else. But that means that for a very small company with 5 people, you can still do strong authentication, and it costs just nothing because you take your smartphone, you have a Raspberry Pi, and that's it.
For small companies.
For very small companies, yeah. But when you have big companies, we have some customers. We have also commercial products, which is running on VM machines, right?
So this framework can run also in the virtual machines or another servers rather than a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have also one chocolate.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you, Andre.
You have also one.
I have one.